Good afternoon, YouTube. It's your guy J Crew to you coming at you with another video here on May 25th, 2022. Wanted to sort of like follow up on a topic that's been kind of gaining some traction over the weekend uh, and early this week. Last week, um, there was some press conferences and some statements that were made that really kind of got some unexpected storylines going in college football. And I'm gonna give my take on this. I'm gonna talk this video, the Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, and Deion Sanders fiasco. Last week, somebody was recording Nick Saban making some comments that were geared toward a crowd full of donors that he was speaking to. When I say donors, boosters and people that donate to the Alabama football program. And I believe somebody asked him to give his take on the current status of the NIL deals and how it's affecting recruiting. And Nick Saban kind of made some comments that really was unexpected. And let me go ahead and just talk about that. When Nick Saban made comments, he basically said that, well, Texas A&M, they were the number one in recruiting this year, and they bought every single one of their players with NIL deals. Basically saying that they were cheating to get great players. That's basically what he was saying. But then he gave another example by saying, while talking to these boosters, he was talking about, well, there was another school. And when he said this other school, he meant Deion Sanders' school that he's coaching at Jackson State University. Well, they just bought a player with $1 million. And so he basically was telling them and saying that, it's becoming more competitive because schools have more resources. So it's going to be harder for Alabama to maybe stay on top in that way. And I thought that comment was unfortunate, but I like what Deion Sanders had to say, which I'm going to get to in a bit. Because I was kind of surprised that Deion replied in the way he did, and again, I'm gonna get that in a bit. But first, I'm gonna get to Jimbo Fisher's comments. As you can see on the screen here, little screenshot of the press conference that Jimbo Fisher called. I think it was either later on that same day or the next day after Nick Saban made those comments. Jimbo Fisher called a press conference, I believe, from what I understand, because his school was seen as having the number one ranked recruiting class. And, Nick Saban had taken some shot at him saying they had bought their players. And Jimbo basically came out, he just threw fire at Nick Saban. Like, he said he thought it was really sad that Nick Saban made those comments. He felt like that it was unfortunate that the players had to, be looked to as, as kind of suspect for engaging in something like that because of Nick Saban's comments. And I like the fact that he did it because he was protective of his players. He said they should be forced to deal with it. They shouldn't be forced to go through that. And I kind of agree with what Jimbo was saying with those comments, because when he said that, he was like, it's unfortunate because they didn't break no rules. They wouldn't have got none of them guys if it was deemed to be illegal with what they're doing. And for people who are unfamiliar with the NIL deal, those mean name, image, and likeness, where players can use their name, image, and likeness to make money outside of the school. They can go get into deals with different companies and, basically have sponsors throughout their college career so they can make money. And that's what these guys are talking about. And so with Jimbo Fisher, he continued by saying that, he's basically showing, and when he said Nick Saban is basically showing you who he really is. One thing doesn't go his way, and all of a sudden he's upset with the whole process, and he's accusing everybody of cheating. And Jimbo said, go ask anybody who used to coach for him and go dig in his past. You won't really find out what's going on with him. And I thought that was incredible because I just didn't expect to hear all that. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I ain't expect to hear that, man. That was pretty incredible. I'm sitting there just listening. I'm like, is he really saying that stuff? Like, is that dude really talking like that? And he was. He really was speaking like that. He was just upset at how that was put out there like that by Nick Saban. And he said, my dad once told me, if somebody shows you who they really are, you believe them. I mean, just basically just throwing Nick Saban back up under the bus with him that what Nick Saban tried to do with him. I just thought that was incredible to see what we saw with all this stuff. It's crazy. Uh, but that really wasn't it. Of course, when that was made in about that number one player in the country who went to Jackson State University, and when Nick Saban kind of directed his comment towards that, he's talking about Travis Hunter, who's pretty much like a two-way player. He can play like wide receiver and defensive back, and that's what he's gonna do for Jackson State. To my understanding, he's gonna play both wide receiver and defensive back. He's seen as a guy who's just as talented as anyone in the country. And instead of going to a top school, he went to a HBCU, a historically black college and state university. So he went there and he just shocked the recruiting world when he did that earlier this year back in February. Nobody could believe it. And so, ever since then, Deion Sanders, who's coaching Jackson State University football, has had to fend off, allegations that they cheated to get him there, and that Travis Hunter was bought and sold. And I'm like, and I thought it was incredible that he's had to endure all this. But I think Deion Sanders had done the best he could considering the circumstances. Because with these latest comments from Nick Saban, of course, there was some people that finally caught up with Deion. They got his take on it. And I thought Deion responded in a very classy and a factual way. He started off by saying, he said, man, first of all, we're at Jackson State, we're functioning like in a deficit. We don't have $1 million to give to nobody. We're in the deficit at the school. You can believe that because they're the HBCU. They simply don't have the resources, like a Alabama, Georgia, or Florida State to get a player like Travis Hunter just based off of just cheating straight up. They don't even have the money. And you can believe that. I mean, just compare the schools. I mean, do you hear about Jackson State University every year? No, you don't. And Deion was saying that, everything was done within the rules, that, outside of just not having the budget to do something like that. He continued by saying what happened in his mind was that Travis Hunter came to some Jackson State University games whenever he had the opportunity, and he was amongst his people. And when Deion said that he was amongst black people, he saw the togetherness, how great the atmosphere was. And in Deion's mind, that's what sold Travis Hunter on his program. I thought it was a very, very well said remark, and I can believe this. Sometimes people can be just kind of, connected with certain atmospheres, and it can sort of just get them to want to be a part of that atmosphere. So I can believe that, and so, continue on with different comments that were made. There was another sports commentator that you may have heard of, Jay Williams of ESPN, who gave his take on what Nick Saban was saying. And Jay Williams was like, he couldn't believe that Nick Saban was saying this because he just thought he was above that. He said, I always thought that Nick Saban was just better than that. There's no way he should be making these comments, given that this is the atmosphere that should be going on in college football. You should have players making money off of their name, image, and likeness. And he came off like somebody who's bitter, somebody who's bitter about everything. That's really how he came off. And he was just shocked because he said, man, that's beneath Nick Saban. There's no way he should be saying that. And to me, when I heard Nick Saban saying it, it was almost akin to how Dabo Swinney commented on this months ago. For people who don't know who Dabo Swinney is, he's the head coach at Clemson University over there in South Carolina. When Dabo Swinney gave his take on name, image, and likeness months ago, I think it was either late last year or early this year, he basically said, with all the transfer portals, the name, image, and likeness, it's hard for him to sort of get into it because he feels like it's a wide open atmosphere, and that it needs to be just eliminated to where they don't have to worry about that as coaches. And people just rain down on him because he's making $7-8 million a year. You can afford to say something like that, but these players who come from poor backgrounds, they can't really afford to think like that. They got to take advantage of these opportunities. And so people really just swooped down on Dabo Swinney. And he really was just kind of drugged through the mud over there. And Nick Saban was kind of drugged through the mud, but maybe not as much as Dabo Swinney was. But both of them have got similar, negative reactions from the public. Either way, I'm gonna continue to keep up with this sort of storyline throughout the football season because this is kind of adding some fire, on top of the fuel that's already burning between Jimbo Fisher, Deion Sanders, and Nick Saban. So I just want to get my take on that real quick. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, click the subscribe button. It's your guy J. Crew to you, signing off for today. Y'all have a good one.